We certainly are seeing good business volumes, but no doubt the climate has changed in the last week to 2 weeks. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the state of Florida at this particular point.
So what's this year going to look like for you overall? Any visibility? I know there are a few months left, and there's obviously great uncertainty as to where this virus goes and consumer behavior, but how is it all going to balance out?
Well, it'll certainly be an interesting year. You know, going back to Florida, we actually see the operation in Tampa exceeding last year's numbers. Now, keep in mind, we had just completed an $800 million expansion. So certainly on our ROI basis, that's not exactly the best news. But we're up about 8-9% over last year. If we look at South Florida, specifically in the Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood area, or the cafe, say, in Miami, much different situation. So there is no doubt that the pandemic directly correlates to what the perception is of our guest in each individual geographic region. As far as the year itself, I mean, the real challenging area is the restaurants. I mean, the cafe division, there's no other way to describe it than it is struggling. I mean, frankly, we're barely open in some markets and obviously with tremendous reduction in capacity. So that particular division is struggling. The good news is online gaming, online retail, those areas, frankly, are, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, in some cases over 100% ahead of last year. So one of the great things about the Hard Rock brand is its eclectic nature to be able to, navigate through different business segments. But certainly this year will not be a good year, when we look at the total results.
Jim, if we stick on Florida for a moment where clearly cases are spiking, what do you want to see the authorities do? Do you want them to roll back the reopenings to prevent it going exponential, or just power on through and hope everything's all right and that you can stay open as you have been?
We made a corporate decision at least 2-3 months or so ago where we said we're going to require every employee and every guest to wear a mask. We went out and invested in technology where we're utilizing thermal imaging, body temperature screening, facial recognition for contact tracing. All of these things, we believe this was going to be part of the recipe for success. And very politely, that has worked very favorably for us. We know that some of the other companies in different business segments of ours resisted that. And candidly, we're seeing amazing compliments from our guests as far as we reached our goal and objective that they feel safe. Each state, is very different. So we have a philosophy of just working with the local philosophy. A little bit of curveball last week here in New Jersey when Governor Murphy had approved for indoor dining, and then literally 2 days before, there was a change in direction. We truly understand and we support the direction, but the key is to be, flexible as we navigate through, frankly, 76 different countries around the world, and obviously here in 50 states in the United States.
I know casinos often cater to older customers, Jim. If we don't get a vaccine for the next several months, what's that going to do to your business if older folks in this population and also people that are high risk just cannot go out and do things like go to casinos and go take trips and go and stay in hotels?
I think it's an excellent point because we clearly have seen in our database, that guest that is older than 60 years old, we definitely have seen a reduction in trips. However, when we do see the guest visit us, frankly, trip frequency then does start to increase because I think we're doing a pretty good job at making them feel comfortable. But no doubt in that particular segment of the database, that guest is concerned. Obviously, I think we're no different than any other business. It's all kind of represents what may or may not happen from the medical community, whether there is or is not a vaccine. And I think if there is not one, then I think we have to be prepared that people will continue to become very cautious in their selection of where they, find entertainment.
What happens if someone refuses to wear a mask? Do you kick them out?
Yeah, we are actually 100%, no exceptions. If you do not wear a mask, what we've done is at all of our entrances, we've kind of created these kind of new entrance points, if you will, with all the cameras, with all the thermal imaging, with stanchions. So literally you go through a queue. And the first thing we do is we remind you of all the rules and all those regulations. We ask for a verbal acknowledgement. We make sure that you have a mask. And frankly, if you do not participate in wearing a mask, then we kindly ask you to leave. If your temperature is over 100.4, we then have a secondary screening area where we politely ask you to come over and, let's take the temperature with a more direct reading. At that point, if someone still is exceeding the temperature, then they are not allowed to enter the facility. And very interesting, this morning I parked in Self Park in one of our properties here in New Jersey, and I had my mask in the car, but as I was actually paying the cashier, because I wanted to have the experience, 100%, the individual in the cashier's booth said, look, we can't allow you to come in unless we see your mask on, even including in the car. So staff's doing a really great job being diligent at trying to protect our guests, most importantly, their relatives, our employees, and members of the Seminole tribe.